Hey, hey, hey. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. How you all doing? How's it going in the arm wrestling world? See who's in chat. Had a little pre-stream conversation with some people. Boss Royale, how you doing? Pete West in the chat. Muscle Bike, good to see you. Chuck, what's up, Chuck? Arnold Larson, good to see you, Arnold. Hope you're doing well. Atlantis says, I think we're all watching the other video. That's fair enough, Atlantis. I uploaded a video right before the stream. Don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I finished it, so I uploaded it. I'm a simple man. I hope you guys enjoy it, if you have watched it or are watching it. It's a pretty short video, so maybe after the 8 minutes are up, some people will jump into the live stream here. But yeah, good to have you guys. Hope you're doing well. What's been going on with you, as far as arm wrestling goes, or anything else? I'd love to hear it. A couple of things I've got lined up, kind of, like loose talking points. I first wanted to... yeah, kind of let the whole stream revolve around one subject, but then I kind of stepped away from that because maybe the subject would be too touchy or too divisive. I don't know, but we'll definitely talk about it a little. Other than that, East versus West 14 is coming up. We'll be talking about that one. There's also some other news as far as people returning to the sport and stuff. Atlantis says, for once, I'm not out driving around delivering. Car is under the weather. Oh, Atlantis, okay. It's nice, I guess, that you can have a little break, but sucks to hear about your car. Yeah, car troubles suck. I speak from experience, of course. Muscle Bike, thanks for linking my latest video about East vs West 14. I'm gonna be kind of doing this going forward. Every time an East vs West will happen, I'll put out a video kind of giving everyone a rundown of, I think, all the relevant information. Probably there's some stuff in there that I missed out on or neglected to mention, but I think in general all the important stuff is in there. So yeah, that's something you can expect every time an East versus West event rolls around, or any other tournament for that matter that I'm interested in or something. I'll be doing that probably. It doesn't take that much time, although it's still quite time intensive to edit. But all in all, I think it's a good way to kind of get the uploads, keep the uploads flowing, you know what I mean, in between my big videos. Yeah, indeed, Muscle Bike. I hope Atlantis is doing better than his car. Chuck is here. How you doing, Chuck? Good to see you all. Let me start up some arm wrestling footage for you guys. So yeah, what's been going on in the arm wrestling world? What have you guys been hearing? I've seen a lot of stuff lately. I think to a certain degree, a lot of people are watching the Olympics, which makes sense in a sports niche, right? It kind of sounds like an excuse for why my views are lower than they usually are, but that's just the case, together with it just being summer. Yeah, kind of inevitable there, unfortunately. Let me pull chat up again. Hey Tomer, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Friendly Faces, wasn't the title Can You Handle the Truth or something? Sounded pretty spicy. Yeah, it wasn't exactly that. I think it was a little less spicy than that. I think it was, do we care about the truth? Which is a good question. I've seen a lot of discussion going around, I'll just come out and say it, about the boxing incident, quote unquote, in the Olympics, where quite a bit of arm wrestling content creators have spoken out on their opinions on the matter. I kind of said this in the description already, but I'll reiterate here again because I think it's worth to repeat, this isn't a political live stream. It never was, it never will be, and it certainly won't be today. Yeah, in general, I don't really mind that you guys talk about political stuff on the surface level in chat, but I myself, yeah, I don't think you'll hear me say anything political anytime soon. It's just not the way I roll. That being said, if something is discussed within the arm wrestling sphere and generates some worthwhile conversation, I do think it's worth talking about it and maybe investigating it a little bit. Tomer says Brad Grundy has quit arm wrestling. Yes, that's something I talked about. Wait, sorry. I think I forgot to turn on the volume on the videos. Yeah, Brad Grundy, that's something I talked about very briefly during a previous live stream. Extremely unfortunate. Brad Grundy is definitely one of the newer ilk of arm wrestlers. One of my favorites for sure. Quickly become one of my favorites. So, yeah, very unfortunate. I hope maybe he gets some kind of second opinion if he hasn't already, and maybe along the line he can get back into competitive arm wrestling. And if not, I hope he stays involved within the community or in some other capacity than necessarily pulling on the table. But yeah, definitely Brad Grundy, very unfortunate. I wish he would have stayed. Yeah. Atlantis says, I saw Devin getting manhandled by that OP toddler. I didn't see that. You can... Yeah, which video is that, Atlantis? What happened there? Chuck says the original title was spicy. Yeah, apparently. Muscle Bike says, regarding the genders, I'm offended and there is no difference whatsoever between PPs and princess parts. Okay, yeah. I see Atlantis saying, oh, that dude fighting in the women's league, embarrassing at the least. Yeah, see, that's the thing, Atlantis. I don't think it's a dude. That might be controversial, but as far as I can tell from what I've been reading and looking into, I don't think it is a dude, right? They were born female, raised female. They might have XY chromosomes, but the source there is dubious at best, I think. Like Russian Boxing Federation that has fell into disrepute during the last few years, if I researched correctly. So yeah, it's very interesting that I'm seeing people saying it's like a trans issue or something like that. Well, I don't think the person is trans by any definition, right? Intersex maybe, but even that is... I don't know about that. But yeah, I'm not an expert, of course. But I do think there's a worthwhile conversation to be had, right? I do want to say this very clearly, that trans athletes in sport is a conversation that needs to be done sooner than later. And I don't think the resolutions we have in place right now are necessarily strong enough to direct it in the way it should go. You know what I mean? So I do think there is a genuine point to be made here about trans athletes in sports, right? You don't want to see, like you said, a dude beating up a woman. Someone that recently transitioned or something like that beating up a woman doesn't make any sense, right? Yeah, I fully agree there. So I do think there is a conversation here worth having. I just think this specific example isn't a good example of that, you know what I mean? If that makes sense. First Grand, now Grundy, damn, yeah, friendly face. Atlantis says, damn, it was a concrete elbow video or something where Devin was shirtless pretending to arm wrestle toddler. Yeah. I saw that on Reddit. Yeah, for sure. Chuck says, Olympics rules regarding trans people are totally rational. Yeah, I do agree they're rational. And whether people know it or not, they have been tightened during the last couple of years, for sure. That being said, I'm not making any value judgment over are the rules strict enough. I think there should always be a conversation in place. I think people should always be free to talk about these things in a factual way without any biases, political or otherwise, coming into play, right? And that's a very tricky thing. I totally recognize that. Tomer says Dennis also wants to take some easier matches, which I think is a great shame. Yeah, it is a shame, but I do understand. I hope Dennis kind of builds up again and stays in the sport. Yeah, I wish him all the best. Atlantis says, yeah, I thought it was the chromosomes or some shit. I thought that's why everyone was so offended. I haven't followed that closely either. Yeah, and I think a lot of the things we saw, even within the arm wrestling community, was extremely reactionary. Instead of waiting for all relevant information or actually looking into it a little deeper, I think a lot of people had a very visceral reaction, which I understand, of course, to the fact that in their eyes there was a man beating a woman and it was endorsed by the Olympics. Now, if you just put it like that, without any additional context or without looking into it at all, yeah, that sounds completely reasonable to be upset by that, right? My gut reaction to that is, what the fuck? How can they let something like that happen? How is that possible? It's kind of political correctness gone crazy, right? If you just look at it as that single sentence. But I don't think we should do that. I don't think that's a smart idea to go about how you digest news. I think it's way better to either take a waiting approach, at least for a couple of days, until more information reveals itself, or take the effort and time to look into it. Especially if you're in a position of influence somewhat, I think you have a responsibility to look into it first before you post anything definitive. You know, we saw this, people being reactionary in the arm wrestling community, but also, of course, outside of the arm wrestling community with way bigger creators, right? Someone like Logan Paul, for example, just to use an example of like someone way bigger within internet community. Logan Paul had a very reactionary attitude and now already has walked back some of those words because they weren't true, essentially. If you looked into the matter a little further, then you would recognize that some things were just false. So, and he's walked that back, but I don't think we'll see that happen anytime soon within the arm wrestling community. I'm not expecting people to walk back what they said. I'm just saying maybe some people jumped the gun a bit. Chuck said, and the source for that accusation is at least doubtful. Yeah. With that organization, if you go and look at that organization, is the IBA or something? I might get that wrong, but I think it's that organization. Yeah, if you go look into the circumstances, they won't reveal any of their testing methods. They won't reveal their results. It's just one guy within the organization, granted a very high up guy, but still one guy making that statement. And the timing is also a little iffy with, they didn't make that, how do I say this? They didn't disqualify the athlete from a previous tournament where they were the governing body, not until that athlete beat a Russian athlete that was associated with that governing body. So, yeah, the timing is a little iffy there, although, of course, there's not really anything definitive you can say there, just that it looks a little suspicious, right? Chuck says, according to Olympics, there is no trans at this Olympics. Yeah, I don't think there are any. According to the definition that the Olympics use, I don't think there are any. Now, whether or not they're using the right definition is a conversation you can have, right? Chuck says, and for trans people to take part in Olympics, transition must be made before age of 12. Also true. Yeah, the transition must be made at a period where hormonal changes haven't taken that much of an effect yet. So yeah, that makes total sense, right? Muscle Bike says, Via Rysek's straight hair looks very similar to Devin's older haircuts. Definitely some trans convo material there. It's interesting that you mention that, Muscle Bike, because apart from the fact that, yeah, indeed, sometimes Via Rysek's hair kind of looks similar to Devin's hair during a certain period. I think you're talking about the 2014 period, like WAL, longer hair Devin. But apart from that, I think that brings up an interesting point, because people will say, well, she still has elevated levels of testosterone, right? So it's still not fair. Well, if you're only using that argument that people with elevated levels of testosterone, which I don't know if it's even the case in this specific instance, but even if that's true, and you don't think people with elevated levels of testosterone are fair to compete at things, then you don't have to look any further than elite athletes in arm wrestling, right? Because according to that logic, you'd have to disqualify a whole bunch of female arm wrestlers, right? A whole bunch. Philody says, hey guys, just quickly on this from me. A woman like a man, but not a man, just a woman with really high testosterone. As I gather, these types of athletes are banned as they fail the testosterone test. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of safeguards, so to speak, to make sure a man, quote-unquote, fighting a woman doesn't happen, are already in place. Chuck says, I agree, historian, many people said and then tried finding any info. Yeah, many people spoke before they knew, right? Which I understand to a degree. It is a topic that's sensitive to a lot of people. Personally, it's not that sensitive to me because I just don't see many instances of that actual issue happening. I'm sure they do happen. And in those cases, it's worth having that conversation in order to prevent it happening in the future. But I just personally, don't see that many instances happening. I don't know of too many examples of that happening, especially within the arm wrestling community. So I think it's kind of strange in a way that a lot of arm wrestling content creators, kind of like that in a snap, started speaking out on it, without even looking into it, and without it really even being a pervasive issue in arm wrestling, as far as I can see. Now, does that mean it doesn't have the potential to become an issue? No, of course not. That's why I think it's important to have honest discussions about it, based on facts rather than kind of visceral feelings. You know what I mean? Atlantis says also, women with super high test will show the same result as a woman that's cheating, basically. Interesting indeed. So this lady just had super high test. Okay, so the way I understand it, Atlantis, and this is just my understanding, right? The way I've looked into it, she was cleared by the testing commission of this Olympics, as far as testosterone goes, as far as any other metric that they would use to determine eligibility. And as far as those things, she was fully cleared by these Olympics. Otherwise, obviously, she wouldn't be in the Olympics. Now, the other organization that tested her, I think either during a Worlds tournament or another big tournament, boxing tournament, they claim that they did find high levels of testosterone. And one person of that organization claims that they found markers for XY chromosomes. If you look into those claims, don't seem credible at all. This organization has fallen into kind of disrepair, so to speak, with a lot of other organizations, more reputable organizations. There's a lot of reasons this organization in specific would put out news like that. But that even aside, all that political stuff even aside, if she had higher levels of test, and she was tested by the Olympic Committee, then she still falls within that same range, right? The allowed range that other athletes would fall in. I think another thing that people often overlook is if this is such a big issue, and if you truly believe she's a man, or was born a man, or transitioned at a certain point, or I don't know why you would believe that, but if you truly believe that, why isn't her record better? If it's such a big issue, why did it take so many years for her to even get at this level? And why is, if you look at her record against women as a man, why isn't her record that stellar? By the way, the athlete that was involved with like the initial fight, the Italian athlete, I believed, also has come out and apologized and said, of course, I saw my opponent as a woman. Of course, my opponent is a woman. Hey, TOS Move, how you doing? Neil Hans, good to see you. What's up? Chuck says, we don't know anything about her hormone levels or genes from any reliable source. Yeah, indeed. Chuck says, yep, IBA. Yeah. That's the organization. Look into them if you want. I'm going to try and catch up on chat because I see I've been like lagging behind. And I want to get your guys' take on it because I do think, like I said before, for people that weren't here maybe, I do think there is a worthwhile conversation to be had. So I'm by no means trying to stifle anyone's free speech or saying it's totally fine with me if men fight women, stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. So I do want to make that clear. Troy Tueller, how you doing? Good to see you. Henry says, in your latest video, you said Doug is coming off 2 losses, but he's 1-1. Oh shit, he beat Ray. Okay, damn. I'll make that correction. I don't know why I came to that conclusion, but yeah, I'll definitely make that correction if that is the case. Thank you, Henrik, for correcting me there. Should have done better research, of course, but I was under a bit of a time, like a time limit for the episode, right? I needed to get it out sooner rather than later. But thanks for that. Muscle Bikes says bad news always travels faster than good news because it triggers people. Another reason to remember to think objectively before reacting, then settle things on the table. Yeah, fully agree there, Muscle Bike. And that also goes for me, you know. I think I got a little riled up because of some of the reactionary stuff I saw online. So I jumped and made a live stream titled "Do We Even Know the Truth?" or something like that, and I kind of walked that back a little bit as I let a little bit of time wash over me, and my yeah, basically chilled out a little bit there. And I think maybe some other content creators should consider doing the same. Tomer says, I don't really understand the issue because I haven't heard of this apart from Devon and this live stream. But I think if you have an XX, then you should not have an XY competitor. Yeah, you can definitely say that. That being said, Tomer, I don't think it's even remotely has been proven that the athlete in question has XY chromosomes. And even if she did, it's not a surefire way of knowing the difference between men and women. It's a very... if you think that way, that XX always, without any exceptions, means woman, and XY always without any exceptions means man, then you've either got a very skewed definition of man and woman, what it means to be a man or a woman, or you have a very superficial knowledge of biology, as far as I'm concerned, because there's a lot of exceptions to the rule, right? In general, you're going to be right, of course, but there are a lot of exceptions to the rule where women and people that have all kinds of markers for women, like women genitalia, like a uterus, like all kinds of things, can still have XY, XXY chromosomes, a whole slew of different combinations that are just a result of different syndromes. So even then, there are exceptions to that rule. But that being said, never proven that she had XY chromosomes in the first place, so I don't know why it's even an issue in the first place. Chuck says just roids, like everyone on Olympics. Yeah, everyone. I think a lot of elite athletes are on steroids or on a higher than normal testosterone level. I think that goes without saying. Hey, Paul Hutchins, how you doing? Good to see you. I'm very glad with the way you guys are reacting to this in a constructive, in a constructive way, a fact-based way. Even if you don't agree with me, that's totally fine. But I'm, very proud of my chat at the moment, very proud of this community at the moment. Kind of restored my faith a little here. Atlantis says, yeah, what I've noticed about the Olympics is the US has developed something new that only we have. Look at what we're doing in track and field events. Yeah, I think Olympics is a very interesting event to watch, right? And it can certainly tell you a lot about the direction certain countries are going with, in general, kind of the concepts they have around training and elite level athletes, right? So I think it's a very interesting event to watch and draw conclusions from in that regard, for sure. And I think can be useful for arm wrestling in that way too. Tomer says, we need to remember that testosterone is a male hormone. A woman with high testosterone is kind of like a half man, half woman, which isn't fair. Okay, so by your definition, Tomer, you would say any woman that has elevated levels of testosterone, because it does occur naturally in women. Any woman that has a elevated level of testosterone or a lowered level of estrogen, whichever you prefer, either, they would be disqualified, right? Also from arm wrestling events. So looking at the athletes right now, the female athletes in arm wrestling, how many do you think we'll be left with if we apply that? How many women in arm wrestling right now have a higher testosterone level than the average woman? Or a high testosterone level compared to the average woman? You can even say that. How many do you think? I think it'll be many. Talpal says he failed the gender test too. Who are you talking about, Talpal? If you're talking about the boxer, yeah, the source on that is very dubious if you look into it. I see you agreeing with reindeer here, but I don't see reindeer in the chat. Do I only have like... Am I missing certain messages? Let me take a look, wait. I don't want to miss any messages here. Ah, here, yeah. For some reason, Reindeer Warhead, which I'm guessing you're Dutch, or at least speak Dutch, Warhead, says the man has testicles and XY chromosomes. It is a man. The world has gone crazy. Domestic violence on display. Okay, I'm understanding towards this attitude to a certain degree, Reindeer. Rander Warhead. I'm assuming you're Dutch, right? I wish I could talk to you in Dutch, but I don't think other viewers would appreciate that so much. Just to get my point across more clearly. But I do think, Rander, it warrants at least looking into a little more. Your first statement of the man has testicles and XY chromosomes, it is a man. While in general you're very right about that, of course, that's just logic 101, right? There are a lot of exceptions. If you even look into biology to a very small degree, you'll see that there are a lot of exceptions. That being said, it's never proven that she has XY chromosomes. If you look at where that statement comes from originally, you'll see that it's not the best source. And I think I'm not saying anything out of pocket with that, right? I'm not saying anything controversial. I think by saying that, I'm not saying I'm like some trans liberalist or whatever you want to call it. I'm not saying anything political there. I'm just saying, take a look at the source, man. Take a look for yourself at the organization that put that claim forward. And if at the end of the day, after looking at that claim, the organization itself, all the context surrounding it, and you still feel the same way, then okay, I guess we're gonna have to disagree here. I don't think domestic violence would be the case in any case, since yeah, it's nobody's home there. Atlantis says, so there was no story and it was just because maybe she looks a bit manly. It got a lot more people talking about and potentially watching the Olympics. Probably. That's the conclusion I've come to personally, Atlantis. That's how I see it. There was not really a story here. There was an organization of ill repute that put out a statement for some reason or another. I think it's pretty clear what those reasons are, but I'm not gonna say those here, obviously. Look into it yourself and I think it'll become clear why that specific organization would put forward an organization linked to a country that isn't even allowed to compete in the Olympics right now. But without getting political, just look into it. You'll see for yourself. I think it's pretty clear why they would even do that in the first place. But yeah, I agree. Got a lot more people talking about and potentially watching the Olympics, probably. So yeah, might be a good thing in the end. I hope so. Tomer says, remember that testosterone can drop dramatically and you can have a woman test levels but be a man if your test crashes. Okay, sure. But that's just, to me, that just sounds like more arguments for test has nothing to do with being a man or a woman test levels, which I agree. Especially in this modern day, especially at sporting events of the highest level. I think it has little to do with that because you'll see a lot of women with test levels way higher than the average woman, as we see in arm wrestling, of course. Friendly Faces Devon mentioned genetic testing. Is that done already? I don't know. One of the organizations, the organization I was talking about, claims it has been done, but hasn't showed its methodology, hasn't showed those results, hasn't showed anything of that nature. And the Olympics says she was cleared, whatever that might mean. Of course, for obvious reasons, they're not going to reveal every specific way they test. But yeah, I think she was cleared as far as the Olympic criteria goes. So yeah, that's all I can say on that. I don't know. Is what it comes down to. And I think in the case of I don't know, it's best not to assume, right? Atlantis says, good point. If she had an unfair sex advantage, she would be murdering chicks. True. Watseki Medarnovan says Alex will win by quickly, similar to Hermes, or top roll him like Georgie did. Yeah, maybe. I'm just excited to see Jerry Caderet again. Topal says if you read most articles carefully, most say he was raised a boy, not born a boy. No. Well, not in my experience, at least, Topal. Most articles I read, which I try to find from unbiased sources, right? I read like my own national news source. I try to find unbiased sources. And most articles I read was she was born a woman, raised like a woman. Yeah, that's what most articles I read said. Most articles like I said, that were sourced credibly. Her own father said so. So yeah, makes sense, right? She's also from a country, Algeria. I don't know if you people know this, but doesn't pay to be transsexual or anything in Algeria. So if you're gonna be raised as a boy and then transition to a woman, or gonna identify as a woman, you're not gonna have a good time over in Algeria. That's just the way it is. The Italian lady has broken nose not long ago. That's why she cried. Yeah, the Italian lady herself said she agrees that she fought a woman. Yeah, muscle bike. Yeah, you're saying the only outliers are those born with defects with both genitals. That's not really true. There's a lot of other cases, yeah, where you can have women genitals and still have XY chromosome markers, have a uterus and still have XY chromosome markers. A lot of cases like that. So no, not the only outliers are those born with defects or intersex people, is what you're talking about, people with both genitals. But they're definitely one of the outliers, right? But there's a ton more, of course. Tomer says, what do you think of performance enhancing pancakes, saying that Prime Devon beats Prime Dennis and Prime Levon beats him too? Probably true. Probably true. Yeah. Topal says, if they got a dong, they a man. I learned that in preschool. I don't know why it's so difficult for scientists to figure that out, lol. Yeah, I think there's a lot more than secondary... Well, I won't go into technical terms here, but there's a lot more than just the genitals that go into being a man or a woman, right? To a degree. I think in general, if you have a dong, you're a man. If you have the opposite of a dong, you're a woman. Makes sense, right? And I think that holds true in general. But of course, there's, like I said, a lot of outliers, which makes it difficult, not only difficult, but also interesting for scientists, right? When men get old, their test decreases considerably, and they sometimes need TRT to restore their former health. There are still men without TRT. Yeah, that goes once again to the fact that hormone levels aren't necessarily an indicator of being a man or a woman, especially this day and age. Yeah, so I agree. The genes are tricky, and her fight record is not anything super special, says Chuck. Very true. Spacey says, bro, I saw footage of that person wearing a cup. When have you ever seen a woman wearing a cup? Now, tell me, Spacey, was this footage of her putting on a cup? I'm not saying it would prove anything either way, but... Or was this like someone kind of speculating about this looks like she's wearing a cup? Or she's like adjusting something that looks like a cup? Or... Because I'm open to seeing it, of course. I don't think it would sway me all the way to her being a man. But yeah, yeah. yeah, I'd be interested to see if that footage actually shows that, or if it's just speculation, right? It's just more speculation. If you were born with a stick, you're a man, and a hole, you're a woman, says Watsa Himadarnov. And again, there are exceptions, and steroids like AGH makes your hands bigger. Yep. Very true. She has footage out there wearing a cup to train. That's not helping her case, says Atlantis. Well, look, if she really was wearing a cup, we'd have to look into, is it normal for female boxers to wear a cup? Because even just using logic here, even just thinking about it, I don't think it's that abnormal for female athletes to wear a cup in certain situations to protect their genitalia. A woman getting hit in her genitalia might not hurt as much as a man getting hit in the balls, but it might still hurt a lot. I'm pretty sure it'll still hurt a lot. It's not like they're just immune to any sensation there, right? We should know this, right? As men. Pete West says it's an issue because Caliph was banned by the IBA from competing in last year's World Championships after failing their gender test. Yeah, that is what one person in the IBA has said. That being said, I don't put a lot of stock into claims the IBA makes, especially if they don't back it up, right? If they refuse to show their testing methods and their testing results very clearly and demonstrably, then I don't see why I should take their word, especially as they're an organization that has fallen into ill repute with every other major organization out there. So yeah, there is that, Pete West. If you look into the IBA a little more closely and you actually take a look at all the things that are out there, you'll see that that's not really an organization you want to take at their word. That's my sense. Tomer says chromosomes matters. But so do hormone levels, not just one but both. And in a sport like boxing, if you're not sure, then don't have the fight because it's dangerous, not like a sprint. Yeah, Olympics was sure. So yeah, there you go. And it is an Olympic event, right? So in the Olympics, the Olympic Committee has come out and said, she's a woman, we're sure, we tested. She's totally cleared competing in the women's division of boxing. The IOC doesn't go by the IBA rulings, which is why there's controversy. Pete West hit the nail on the head there. Indeed, exactly what I was talking about. Very true. Chuck, about testosterone levels, our bodies does not always react the same way to one dose, and there are a few types of testosterone in our body. True. Tomer says probably none. I need to think. Good point. It's fine, Tomer. Listen, I'm open to discerning out whichever way it does, right? I'm not saying everyone that reacted to it is a bigot, or people that think it's a man beating up on a woman are delusional or anything like that. I'm not even remotely saying or thinking that. So yeah, I do want to make that clear. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is we should look at all the evidence, and if there isn't enough evidence available, enough credible evidence, then we should take a waiting stance rather than a reactionary stance. If we ever want to develop like rules that make sense around quote-unquote trans issues in sports, which as far as arm wrestling goes, which is what we're talking about at the end of the day on this live stream, I don't see any issues there yet. But if they ever become an issue, if it ever becomes an issue, then I think we should be able to talk about it in a rational way, right? And I don't think having this visceral reaction straight away as arm wrestling content creators, putting out videos, putting out reactions about this is the way it is, it's a man beating a woman, and refusing to look at any other evidence, is kind of short-sighted and not really conducive to ever getting to that point, right? Tallball says, yeah, you missed one of my messages about the news outlets reporting. Maybe where I said their names, YouTube blocked it. Might be. News outlets reporting on the fact that there is controversy, or that an organization claimed she had XY chromosomes, or news outlets outright saying there's a man that fought a woman at the Olympics. Because if it's the second one, I'd be very interested to seeing it. If it's the first one, of course, yeah, that's what news outlets are going to do, right? They're going to report on what a lot of people are thinking and saying, and Yeah, what gets the most clicks, that makes sense. Friendly Face says, Arm Historian, you mentioned there are many exceptions when it comes to the biological facts. How would you handle those special cases to be the most fair? Yeah, that's a very fair question, Friendly Face, and a question that is difficult. I don't know. I don't have the answers there. The only thing I'm trying to say here is, if we're ever gonna get to answers, I think those answers should be fact-based and shouldn't be emotion-based. And having this kind of reaction to something like that happening, not even in our own sport, I don't think bodes well for having those reasonable discussions in the future and getting to a good answer to your question. Because I do think that's the end goal, right? If there's an unfairness happening, it needs to be addressed. And we need to be consistent, right? So yeah. Topal says, being born with male anatomy and male DNA but raised as a daughter doesn't make him a her. Yeah, I guess. Okay. But yeah, she was born with female anatomy and raised as a woman, according to all reliable sources I could find. So I don't really get the point how it's... Like, what does it have to do with this case specifically? Because I do agree with you to a degree, but I don't really see how that's relevant to this case, yeah. Tomer says, I would say that when a woman starts to display male characteristics, that she is no longer 100% woman. So I would say that the female arm wrestlers are kind of not women, despite being born women. Okay, interesting. So yeah, then you're kind of saying that we should exclude some female arm wrestlers too, that just kind of have certain characteristics that are more associated with men. I'm sorry, I can't really pronounce your name in Cyrillic, I think. It says, hi, Arm Historian. I would like your opinion on Lamparelli-Chafee match that apparently no one talks about. Like, it's very hard for me to have an opinion on the Lamparelli-Chafee match because I don't know where Chafee is at. I know Lamparelli has been training like crazy and is taking it really seriously. I also love Lamparelli as a puller, so I hope he does well. If Chafee comes in anywhere near kind of his shape a couple of years ago, when he faced the likes of Vitali and such, I think you have to give it to Chafee, right? But if Chafee comes in the way he comes in lately a lot of the time, yeah, might go to Lamparelli here. Chuck says her dad was talking that she's a girl. Yeah, not only her dad, but people from her youth, like a whole bunch of people that are very credible, that actually know her from when she was little, says she was a woman. It also doesn't make sense that in Algeria she would have been transitioned from a boy to a girl. It's illegal in Algeria. Try it. Try going there and transitioning. Doesn't work out well. Muscleback says they will always be 100% female as they were before, just more masculine as women go. Men with female mindsets and low test are still men. I agree. It just... Listen, it just comes down on how you define the words, right? If you want to say biological sex or... it just comes down to how you define the words. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I think it's semantics to a certain degree, which is, yeah, not a good reason to have any argument, in my opinion. Pete West says, it's as simple as this. No athlete with XI chromosomes should compete against XX women. Any female with high testosterone level shouldn't be able to compete against natural women, regardless of the source of testosterone. Okay, interesting. So you do think that a lot of the... just to use arm wrestling as an example, obviously, because this is an arm wrestling channel, you do think a lot of the female arm wrestlers shouldn't be allowed to compete against other female arm wrestlers because they have elevated levels of testosterone. And should that also be the case for men? Like, should there be a certain maximum you can go over your opponent's testosterone level, or how would we do that exactly? And how would that even work in practice? Because who's even going to pay for all those tests, right? But even apart from that, just losing logic, like, where are you drawing that line? Topal says CNN and Fox both said born with male anatomy and male DNA, but was raised as a woman. I'll have to disagree with you. Listen, Topal, you don't have to disagree with me, although you can. You can just, instead of disagreeing or agreeing with me, just try to look like who are you gonna believe? A news network or the people closest to her in her life? And just using basic logic, it doesn't really happen in Algeria. Like, who are you gonna believe? And I'm sorry to mention, but like, I don't know about CNN, I don't know about American news networks, but is Fox really an unbiased news network? I have no clue about CNN. I know like very little about American politics or news or anything like that. I have no horse in this race, but what I always heard was that Fox, and I saw them say some weird stuff sometimes, so I don't know. Is it an unbiased news network? It might be. Or it might have become one in recent times. Because, like I said, I don't really keep up with it, so I'm not saying one way or the other if they are. Bulls Deep Hook says, I just want to, like, kind of get educated here, if that makes sense. Paul Paul says, well, I ain't gonna date a gal with a dong, though. Yeah, that's totally fine. I don't know. I think the whole claim that the whole world will become gay or something weird like that, it's not gonna happen anytime soon. Gay and trans people have been around for millennia and the world hasn't imploded yet, so I don't think, yeah, that's gonna happen anytime soon. Bulls Deep Hook says, time to jump on the female jockstrap market. I'm there with you, Bulls. I'll invest a little. I'll buy one for my girlfriend when she's playing tennis, right? If she ever gets a ball there, she'll be safe. I'll know she'll be safe. Atlantis says, so this is pretty complex. Once people start lying, they should figure out DNA markers for sex that the body uses to know which sex to form as. Yeah, but even then you're kind of coming down to definitions to a degree, right, Atlantis? I see what you're saying 100%, and I do think something more definitive should be there as a testing method. But like, okay, I'm just using this as hypothetical situations, right? Imagine someone has a uterus, female genitalia, boobs, like long, luscious hair, softer skin, all the things, all the exterior things you would associate classically with a woman, but has a syndrome where her chromosomes have XY markers. Is she a woman? By your definition, right? Like, how do you define woman? The only thing is XY? Is it a combination of XY and testosterone? Is it only genitalia? Is it having a uterus? Is it having an ovulation? There's like so many different things that you can point to that would make a person a man or a woman. And it just comes down to which of those markers, which of those criteria do you value highest to determining that, right? Sorry, I still can't pronounce your name. Maybe if you can type it in, yeah, in an alphabet I can understand. I'm sorry, truly, that I can't read it. But you're saying, but we wouldn't like any that kind of I identify as a woman thing on arm wrestling. That's fair if you don't want it. I don't think arm wrestling is in a position where we can exclude anyone right now. I don't think our sport is big enough where we can just say we don't want these kinds of people in here. But yeah, that's just me, I guess. Damn, I'm really lagging behind on chat. I'm gonna try to catch up here, guys. I'm sorry. I hope this is somewhat interesting for you. It is for me because of the fact that we can talk about it in a rational way so far. So I really enjoy that. And I do appreciate it, you guys being patient with me here. Musclebike says, those outliers I mentioned included a mixture of chromosomes and genitals and defects. Those born this way are the outliers. People born one way or the other are simply trans, not intersex. Okay. Those are, once again, interesting definitions of it. Those outliers I mentioned included the mixture of chromosomes and genitals and defects. Okay. So you're kind of saying that we don't... Like, what is the point you're making towards this particular subject, or how we would determine who we're going to allow to compete with women or men, right? Tallpaul says, plus the Adam's apple gives it away. I'm sorry, Tallpaul, but that's reaching, right? Like... That sounds like, oh, I saw in a video that it kind of looks like she has an Adam's apple here. Must mean she's a woman. Apart from the fact that I'm sure there's certain outliers, once again, where biological women can have Adam's apples. Apart from that, I don't know if it's the case that she does have one. I haven't really focused on her Adam's apple. Maybe I should. Tomer says, overall, it's my final comment on this issue after considering our historian points, because they were good and got me thinking. I would say that a man is the expression of the Y chromosome. This is part 1. Part 2, if a person has a female body but has a Y chromosome that is dormant, then they are still a woman. But if the Y chromosome is dominant, then I would say it's unfair, but my biology is of a 16-year-old. That's fair. All I can say is, Tomer, I'm very happy that you're trying to think for yourself here, and I'm trying to draw your own conclusions. And yeah, I just urge you to either study biology a little more closely if it really interests you, or just look at, you know, if you hear something online, no matter if they present it as a fact or not, try to think, does this person stand to gain anything by saying this? Are they trying to push a certain narrative one way or the other? This isn't a conservative, liberal issue for me, personally. It happens on all... it covers the entire spectrum here, as far as I'm concerned. People have a lot of biases and have a lot of talking points that they know sell well, especially with their audience. So I think it's not an easy thing, but I think look into the sources, right? And try to look deeper and give it a little more time. I think a lot of people spoke out a little too quickly, basically, is what it comes down to. Arnold Larson says, thanks, but I'd rather react with passion and forget about it. Yeah, you can. And a lot of people do, and it works for a lot of people. I think if I would do the same, it would maybe get me a bunch more clicks too, but yeah. It's not the best way of getting to an actual truth, right? To a reality that actually makes sense. They should be getting these confused mentally unstable kids mental help. Paul, okay. Like, you're allowed to have those opinions, but like calling them confused mentally unstable kids, like transitioning isn't even allowed before they're not kids anymore in a lot of countries, including my own. I don't know. It just seems like you're kind of attacking the people themselves, while in your own opinion they're victims, right? Of like a greater issue. So shouldn't we at least maybe not call them confused mentally unstable kids? I don't know. Just doesn't seem very conducive to getting somewhere, you know? To reaching some kind of worthwhile conclusion. Army Historian, can you say that Levon achieved Todd role in his rematch with Devon? I don't even know what that means. Yeah, I do think Levon top rolled Devon, of course, in his rematch. I don't know what a Todd roll is. Hey, thanks Phil Woody for reminding people to hit that like button. Now guys, I'm having this discussion with people that have been in my community since almost the start, and people that I've started to consider my friends, right? Even my close friends in some cases. and people that I've come to know to a certain degree. I'm talking about Tall Paul, I'm talking about Muscle Bike, other people too, of course. And I think it's fine that we disagree. I think it's important we keep focusing on the fact that even though we might disagree fundamentally about things, in the end we want what's best for the sport, right? And it doesn't matter if we disagree, because the fact that we are, I would consider us friends. The fact that we are friends means that we can disagree with each other and talk about these kinds of things without getting personal, right? So yeah, I do really appreciate that, and I hope you guys keep that in the back of your head as we're talking about potentially controversial stuff like this. Phil Woody, taking it back to arm wrestling, which I appreciate, says, Chafee believes he's at 90% of his best. Yeah, I would take that with a grain of salt too, but I hope so. I hope Chafee is back at a really good condition. I love me some prime Chafee, and if it's even 90% of its prime, yeah, sign me up. I think it's more respectful anyways, right, to tell people how you think and not try to pander to them. I think true respect comes from that, right? You don't have to be too ad hominem or anything like that, but yeah, I think having friends and people you appreciate in the community means you can tell those people what you truthfully think. Yeah, and I do think we should be able to do that, right? Let me quickly change headphones here. Headphones I'm wearing currently are out of juice. I'm gonna quickly switch here. Here we go. Tomer says about the Dave Chafee, is Dave dropping weight? Is this an open weight match or not? I think it's open weight class, super heavyweight, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I don't think Dave is dropping weight. I think maybe Frank Lamparelli is trying desperately to put on as much good weight as possible, but yeah, just speculation. But yeah, it is a super heavyweight match, if I remember correctly. Chuck says, I think we can go to another topic. There is not more to say. I agree 100%. I've said my piece on the matter. I'll just really quickly summarize my thoughts on it, and then I'll drop it until eternity probably, or until an actual case pops up in arm wrestling where we can talk about, which would be more interesting, in my opinion. But yeah, to really quickly summarize, the main point I want you to take away from this, and that I would like you to take away from this, is not Arm Historian is kind of vying to make this some ultra leftist liberal safe space or anything weirdly political like that I don't even ascribe to anything near that. But I do think the main takeaway should be, take a look at the facts before you react. Especially as a content creator, before you put stuff out there, don't only take a look at the sources you normally take a look at. Don't only take a look at the things that you know are going to disagree with maybe a point you already kind of occupy in your mind. Also take a look at the other stuff before you put something out there for the world to enjoy. That makes sense. So yeah, I'll be skipping over most of the messages concerning this topic, but yeah, I think we can kind of pivot towards actual arm wrestling now. Maybe talk about East vs West 14 a little bit. Also the fact that fucking Yoshi Kanai is coming back, which is crazy to me, at East vs West 15, sorry. I love it. I wish more Japanese people would compete, and I hope this kind of opens the door together with Takenaka. I hope both of them kind of lead the charge for Japanese arm wrestlers to make their way back to the competitive scene, because in my opinion they're sorely missed. Arnold Larson says all news medias are biased. True. So do your own research, don't just blindly believe talking points. Topal says CNN is very liberal propaganda news outlet, but Fox is the #1 news source in USA for many years now. Interesting, Topal. Is that really true? Is that really true? Because, yeah, I don't know. I won't say anything else, but is that really true? Or is it the #1 news source in the USA for you? Chuck says news networks always push their agendas on both sides of the barricade. All too true, Chuck. All too true. Yeah, like I said, I don't know anything about the US, but that's certainly true where I'm at, too. Dave actually has good side pressure and very good form now, so yeah, probably I would like Dave achieve good top roll to be just unpinnable. It would be crazy if Dave kind of, like he did with the press, kind of would surprise us with a pure top roll, right? Chuck says, I kind of disconnected for a moment and then I hear, boobs, arm historian, don't do this to me. Listen, this is a very... it's not a normal live stream for the arm historian, right? For people that are tuning in for the first time, maybe. This is not the normal topics we usually talk about. So yeah, keep that in mind. It won't always be like this. Usually we talk about actual arm wrestling, believe it or not. I just thought since a lot of arm wrestlers and arm wrestling content creators are bringing it up, I should briefly address it too. And that kind of turned into an hour-long conversation. So yeah, there you go. A lot of messages about it. I'm looking for arm wrestling messages here. Atlantis says I may have to look that up. I didn't realize how much gray area there was in some situations, for sure. I think there's some gray areas in all situations. A man that only looks at life in black and white, yeah, is a man of very little subtleties, right? Thank you, Topal, for joining the discussion. I truly appreciate it, even if you don't see eye to eye on this particular thing. I truly appreciate you being straight up with me and joining the conversation. So yeah, thanks for that. That's okay. My name is Vasily. Okay, Vasily, welcome, and thank you for clearing that up. What do you think about Dennis right now? If he heals his hip problems, achieves on 70% of his side pressure, and use a top roll with his thick thumb, would he be #3? There's a lot of ifs in there. Listen, I love Dennis as an arm wrestler, and I'd love to see him get back at the top, right? A peak Dennis is a dangerous man, even in this more modern environment of arm wrestling, right? I still think Dennis would be very dangerous. So yeah, it's very hard to say. There's so many ifs there. I hope he recovers well. I hope he takes more time to recover and is very smart in his training in that way. So that's really all I can say there. Vasily says, guys, let's stop that discussion and come back to arm wrestling. I agree. That's what we're trying to do here. Sorry, Pete West and other people that are still talking about it. Mas Zahid says, can I join podcast for real? I wasn't planning on doing any call-ins today, Mas Zahid, because of the obvious topic here. But I for sure will be like doing viewer call-ins again at some time in the future, pretty soon. Yeah, you're right, Vasily, of course. Hey, Latrousseau, good to see you. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. What up? Musclebike says people can be friends and disagree for sure. Arm historian, yes. That's one of the good things of having friends, right? Knowing that even though you disagree on some what you might consider pivotal points in life, we can only serve to grow together, right? And grow through our disagreements in a way. That's the way I see it, of course. Dave always said he's as strong as ever. Yeah, it might be the case, right? And it might be a little, I don't know, might have his last few losses might have given us kind of a skewed vision on where Dave is really at, and he might still be at a really high level. Yeah, might be the case. Very true. The Todd roll is basically top roll, but using your thumb and a lot of side pressure. And in Todd roll, you can just kick your wrist back and fight with opponent's arm power with your thumb, pronation side for sure. Okay, that kind of sounds like a low hand top roll to me. Like, I sometimes do that. If I still want to, if my opponent is has a lot of coverage on my hand, has gone forward somewhat, and is basically going all in on containment, but I still want a top roll instead of going into, then I'll probably use a low hand top roll or a Todd roll like you call it here. I'll probably use something like that. So yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Lat Rousseau says this is just another non-issue to keep the masses divided and fight amongst themselves. Preach, Lat Rousseau, preach. That is maybe the most base take I've seen here, in my opinion. Just a distraction. Tomer says, I just got back from watching the 109 sprint. It was really close. Awesome. I'm kind of enjoying the Olympics too. I haven't watched too much of it, to be honest. But yeah, my country is doing reasonably well. Got a couple of gold medals now, a couple of bronze ones. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. 15. That's what it's called from now on, right? Not 15 Gagan, but 15. Why isn't it called that, honestly? Would make a lot more sense, right? It's 14. It's not like 14, right? 15 would make more sense. It was popularized by Todd Hutchings because he always uses side pressure. Okay, makes sense. Vasily. Atlantis says, I saw the picture of that Yoshi fellow. Arm looks pretty big. Yoshi Kanai is no joke. Yeah, definitely look him up if you haven't seen a lot of him. Has a lot of footage out there, Atlantis, and really awesome puller. I believe he broke his hand, if I'm not mistaken, versus John Brezink, or his arm versus John Brezink. But it might have been Michael Todd, but I think it was versus John Brezink. Not 100% on that, but yeah, he did broke his arm at like a pivotal moment in his career, which I think partly has something to do with why he kind of left the sport for a while. But there might be a lot of different reasons for that. Haven't done a lot of research into him yet. Gagan says, yeah, Yoshi's built differently. Yeah, true. Hey, Dan Plexman, how you doing? Good to see you. Phil Woody says, Arm Historian, did you see today MMT set a new world record on the Devonport Nation lift? Awesome. I haven't. Good on him. Yeah, Michael Todd is another one of those pullers that I want to see him do well so badly, because he's such an entertaining puller for me, and he's such a tenacious puller. I just want to see him more. I want to see him on the table every tournament, so yeah. I just hope he doesn't injure himself, because kind of a consequence of that tenacity sometimes with some people is that they're pretty prone to injuries, right? Atlantis says our mainstream media networks are all untrustworthy and give you a version of the news. Yeah, makes sense. Chuck says we could talk about boobs every Sunday. I don't have anything against. That would be the life, right, Chuck? Tomer says, to be honest, I kind of want Dave to lose because Dave has had his time, but Matt recently lost to Frank. So now if Mike and Dave beat him, then Matt isn't in a good place. Yeah, Matt is another one of those pullers for me, in the same category as a Michael Todd, where I just want to see more of Matt Mask, and I think a lot of people do. To be honest, Dave should win easily, says Lat Rousseau. But I don't know what his shape is like. Yeah. I agree there. 100%. That's kind of the conclusion I've come to with that match. Gagan says I might be mistaken, but I think John and Yoshi had a match and it was a crazy match. John only won by risking his elbow. That might be the match I'm thinking of, or maybe I'm just like conflating that match with the fact that Yoshi broke his arm at a certain point. I'm gonna be live for about 20 more minutes or something, but I just noticed that the arm historian thing wasn't done. Hang on. There we go. That looks better. Tomer says, hot take. I've just come around to believing this, but I honestly think that Prime Dennis beats anyone on planet Earth or elsewhere. Yeah, that is a hot take, I would say. I don't agree, but I definitely see how you can have that opinion. Just looking at Dennis, right? Just looking at Dennis. Yeah, I can see how you can have that opinion. Hey, Cossix, how you doing? Haven't seen you around. What's up, what's up? Welcome. Atlantis says, oh, Yoshi the real deal? Admittedly, I'm not familiar with him until now. Yeah, Yoshi in his day, I think he won Worlds as well. Like I said, I'm not up fully on the research. I only know him kind of tangentially from watching other people compete with him, through researching other athletes. But yeah, Yoshi definitely the real deal. I hope he still is. I guess we'll see. Hey, the Claymore, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome. Mr. James Stewart himself in the chat. Yeah, look him up, Atlantis, for sure. Hey, Heath, how you doing? Phil Woody says Yoshi pulled his bicep against Don Underwood at Arm Wars Vegas the Gathering. Okay, so maybe I'm just completely making stuff up, right? Maybe he never broke his arm. I still competed left arm beast. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I knew he had some kind of injury, but in my mind it was a broken arm. But yeah, might have been a pulled bicep tendon there. Gagan says, yeah, I mean, it would, but then again, a lot of stuff in English doesn't make sense. Like, why is it called taking a shit if you're leaving it? Good point, Gagan, as always. Making the truly important points. Vasily says that's not a low top roll, because using tot roll, your riser is up. Okay, your riser is up too. With wrist kick back, going on sides, using your... I'm trying to, like, while you're saying it, I'm trying to make the motion right. Side pressure and a big thumb. Yeah, that does kind of look like a Totzilla motion there, you're right. Okay, interesting. Your riser stays up. That's not something I thought. Yeah, because with a low hand top roll, my riser doesn't stay up. Because, yeah, I use it in situations where I can't get my riser to go up, basically. Lat Rousseau says, Boop Historian channel when... don't give me any good ideas, Lat Rousseau. I barely have time to make videos for this channel. It must be a different match, because I saw that match and somehow no one got injured. Okay, Gagan, yeah, must be a different match. Must have been the one that Phil Woody mentioned, right, with Don Underwood, Hollywood Don Underwood. Maybe we can talk about Paul Lynn versus Rustam, says Chuck. Yeah, sure. I'm down to talk about any of them. Lat Rousseau says, was that a face reveal? In a way it was, Lat Rousseau. I'll do another quick one. There you go. Sorry if you missed it. Boss Royale, how you doing? Hello, good to see you. Saw you were in the chat way earlier, so good to have you back. Vasily said that's what Levon used in his rematch with Devon. After the first round, he gave Devon his wrist, kicked back, challenging Devon's arm power with his monstrous side pressure and pronation. That makes sense. Boss Royale says, what country are you from? Take a wild guess, Boss Royale. And somewhere in Europe, I'll tell you that much. It's kind of been a running joke here and a running trend for people to guess what country I'm from. I'm sure a lot of people in chat, a lot of the regulars already know this, but yeah. I'm always interested in what country people think I'm from, based on my accent or whatever. Tomer says, I only know about Yoshi from pulling John, where he almost beat John close to his prime. True. Very strong puller, very tenacious puller. Yeah, doesn't give up easily. Gagan says, this is definitely gonna piss Dennis fanboys off, but I personally think there is no way Prime Dennis beats Prime Levon. He might even lose to Prime Hermes. I don't think so either, personally. Boss Royale says, what part of Europe? Pretty much Central Europe, I guess. Western Europe. Depends on how you want to define that. Resident of planet Earth. That's true. Sometimes. Usually. Sometimes it seems like I'm not fully on Earth, but yeah, must just be my perception, right? Vasily says, Prime Dennis had a big problem with his hand and fingers. He was just always giving his opponent good positioning to outside lane pushers. He was basically that, moving his opponents. That's true. That's very true. You can see that clearly on a lot of his matches. Boss Royale says you either sound Slavic or Dutch. I'm not from the Netherlands, nor am I from any Slavic country there, Boss Royale. But there is some truth in your in what you're saying. Tomer says English is weird. A joke about the taking a shit I heard is I was on the train, but the toilet was broken, so I had to hold it the whole trip. The people next to me were disgusted. Yeah, some of the expressions don't translate well to other countries, I've noticed. Same thing with local expressions here. Gagan says, I remember when I first guessed Arm Historian's country. Yes, many have tried, many have failed, but some have succeeded. Lat Rousseau says he's from an aerodynamic country. Giving tips there, Lat Rousseau. Thank you, Phil Woody, for linking to my latest video. I have put a pretty quick video, about 8 minutes, out on East vs West 14. So I do appreciate you, Phil Woody, for sharing that in the chat. Phil Woody, another one of those people that I've gotten to know to a degree. We've even shared a room together, believe it or not. Another really stand-up guy, I think, from the community. Really reasonable guy, you know what I mean? And I like those kinds of people. Boss Royale says, or OK says, Prime Levon is the best arm wrestler. Dennis has more flaws than Levon. Yeah, you could argue that. I could see that. I think Levon to a degree, although he has been a little more tested now, but to a degree, I think he hasn't had to use a lot of his stuff, so a lot of his moves, so we can't really tell, right? Because he's just that much stronger. But yeah, I could agree with you there. Boss Royale says Central Europe. How about Switzerland? Nope. I might be neutral, but not that neutral, Boss Royale. Chuck says about Paul and Rustam, I see that Rustam is better at getting into a hook, looking from match with Irakli. But I think Paul can get inside and match his power. Yeah, I think Paul in general is also a hook puller, right? So yeah, judging by their last match, I think it's gonna go there again. Pretty safe to say. If it doesn't, I'd be fine with that too. Would be surprising, but I'd like it. Boss Royale keeps guessing they're Austria. No, I'm not from Austria, Boss Royale. Not from Austria. I don't speak Deutsch in any capacity. Well, I shouldn't say in any capacity. I speak like, yeah. My German isn't good. Let's just keep it at that. Vasily says, well, he could beat Levon if he grips up higher, then it's what's not really unflappable. When Dennis gripped fingers higher, he could break everyone's wrist. Why do you think he didn't? A lot of the times, Vasily. I'm curious. Tomer says, you said earlier that you would speak Dutch, but the viewers wouldn't understand. The Germans think they are the Dutch from Deutschland. So are you German? I am definitely not German. Though I can speak Dutch, if you want me to. Boss Royale says, thoughts on arm wrestling becoming an Olympic sport? I'd love it, of course. I'd love it. I don't... Unfortunately, I'm not one of the people that think it's going to happen anytime soon. Yeah. There's a lot of things that arm wrestling needs to get quote-unquote right first in order to be even considered, I think, by the Olympic Committee. And I think in some regards we're moving in the opposite direction even. So I don't know if it would even be constructive to aim for the Olympics anymore. I know a lot of people would disagree with that. And like I said, I would love to see it, of course, as an Olympic discipline. But yeah, I don't know if I'm one of the people that actually believe that we're getting there anytime soon. Okay, says Latvia. No, I'm not from Latvia. Okay. Lat Rousseau says, is your German worse than Devon's? No, it's not, Lat Rousseau. It's not. Devon's German is not great. It seems like it's getting better to a degree, but yeah, it's not great. I applaud him for speaking German. It's not terrible either. He can certainly make himself known to a degree to other Germans. But yeah, it's definitely not great. But Royale might have guessed it there. La Trousseau says, what about the Enhanced Olympics or whatever it's called? I don't know. Is that like a separate Olympics where they don't do testing or something? Yeah. The fact that I don't even know what it is has to speak on its popularity to a degree at least, right? Thoughts on Taras Ivakin, the arm wrestler. Love me some Taras. Wish he would come back. He probably has reasons why he hasn't come back. But definitely on the short list of people that I want to make videos on in the near future. So yeah. Who you got, John or Prudnik? John or Prudnik right now? Tough to say. I'll get back to you after tomorrow. After next week, right? Next week Sunday, ask me again, and I'll tell you. Levan is somewhere in center of Devon and Dennis having Dennis's arm power and Devon's wrist and pronation. Mobile enough and fat enough so he can use every technique without any problems. Interesting theory there, Vasily. Yeah, Boss Royale, I wouldn't say it's terrible. Like I said, Devon's German isn't terrible. The things I've heard him speak don't sound terrible. I'm definitely not an expert in German, don't get me wrong. I had it in high school for a couple of years. Yeah, but that's about the extent of when I use German, so yeah, take of my opinion what you will, right? I'm not a German guy. It is an official language in my country, but I think only like, what, 20,000 people or something speak it officially. Yeah, Tomer, lifts, I don't know how well they translate to the table. Sometimes they do. But Royale, I'm from, yeah, the Dutch-speaking side, which is Flanders. La Trousseau says, I don't know, I saw something about a guy wanting to make a place where enhanced athletes can participate. Interesting. To a degree, they already can, right, at the Olympics, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, interesting concept. I might give it a watch if it ever happens. I don't know. Taras had the craziest arms I have ever seen, says Boss Royale. Yeah, certainly. Crazy arms, especially for the way he was built in general, right? Guys, let me quickly check up on something here. I don't know if Neil is going live with the fix. I usually call it quits right about the time Neil goes live, and I think that's in about 7 minutes, but I don't know, lately, as have I, but he hasn't been the most consistent in going live every week on Sunday. So let me quickly check if he's going live today. It doesn't look like it. I can see it anyway, so yeah, we can go over time a little bit if we want to here, if we have some stuff to talk about still. Friendly Faces, Devon's German is pretty decent, just slow and awkward, yeah. Kind of what I took of it, but my German is probably close to the same, I guess. I don't have a lot of use cases for it. Vasily says, is your German better than Levan's German? I don't know. I don't know the level of Levan's German, so I have no clue. Maybe. Couldn't Devon speak German fluently when he was younger because his mother is German? I believe his grandmother was of German descent or something, or came from Germany. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, to a degree, I think, when I looked into it, when I made a video on him. He did have some back knowledge of German, but I don't know about fluently. Would surprise me if you spoke German fluently as a child and then, yeah, regressed kind of to that level, right? Okay, it says, Dennis may have been stronger in other areas, but I doubt it was by a significant margin. True. I think sometimes the margins between a lot of the elite pullers are a lot smaller than people think. Gagan says there's no way arm wrestling makes it to the Olympics because PEDs aren't allowed, so basically only like 5 people would pass a drug test. That's certainly one of the major reasons, right? I agree. But I'm gonna skip this one for a second here. This gave me some copyright issues last time. Apologies for the small delay here, guys. Let me get back to chat. Boss Royale says, hold up, so I was right when I said you sounded Dutch. Yeah, you were right in that I speak Dutch. But to me, sounding Dutch implies being from the Netherlands. Being Dutch, and I'm not Dutch. I just speak the language, you know. Like a person from the Netherlands versus a person from Flanders, the accents don't even sound similar slightly. So yeah, to me they sound completely different. The way they speak English and stuff is completely different to me. But yeah, of course, it was a technicality, Boss Royale, that I got you with. Atlantis says, bro, the mystery of her arm historian is from solved, question mark? Might be. Maybe that's just where I'm living right now, Atlantis. I never said I was actually born in Belgium or have lived here for my entire life, right? Might just been studying here or something. Boss Royale says, which weight category do you compete in? I'm with the big boys, man. I'm in the super heavyweights. Atlantis says people have been trying to figure that out. Was it already figured out? Yeah, Atlantis. To be fair, a lot of people figured it out. I still don't speak super openly about it because what's the point, right? And it's kind of fun to get people guessing, but yeah, people have figured it out. Some people have stalked me in PMs trying to figure it out. But yeah, it's pretty clear once you take a look at certain things. Yeah, it's not like I didn't leave any hints anywhere. Boss Royale says, also, which promoter do you think has done the most for the sport? Igor, Engin, or Neil? That's a hard question, Boss Royale. That's a really tough question. Neil and Igor have been at it for a very long time. Well, I think Engin's product right now is more in line with where I see the sport going eventually. You know what I mean? So, yep, debatable. Really tough question. But thanks for asking it. Sorry, I can't give you a more conclusive answer than that. Every one of them, all 3 of them, have been instrumental in my opinion. Without Neil or Igor, there wouldn't be an East versus West, I think it's safe to say. Without Engin, that's obvious that there wouldn't be an East versus West, but I'm just saying, yeah, everything is influenced by what comes before, right? So. Dennis crushing walnuts by bending back his fingers is the craziest thing I've seen from any arm wrestler. Yeah, that's a clip I've shown to a lot of friends. A clip that a lot of people have seen, I think, even outside of arm wrestling. Really impressive. Although with those kinds of things, I'm sure there's some strength to it, but to me they kind of seem like bar tricks to a degree, right? Like ripping a phone book in half and stuff. There must be some kind of technique to it, although it's probably way easier if you have the kind of fingers that Dennis has, right? What about the GOAT, Mindaugas, says Lat Rousseau. Be an interesting match too. Mindaugas should have the edge, right? It would be sad to see arm wrestling in the Olympics without Levon, Devin and others. Can't pass the tests, yeah. True. They would melt the cup. Vasily says Dennis had very thick fingers, they were very strong, but it just made him problems with his cupping. 2018, his finger cupping was somewhere around 50 plus kilogram. Yeah. There is some correlation between containment and cupping and all that stuff, and like size and strength of fingers and hand. But it's not as big as some people might think, in my opinion. Yeah, try to arm wrestle with boxing gloves and you will understand Dennis. Good point there, Vasily. I'm not sure Neil is live tonight. Engin is now with a few guest on, says Phil Woody. Ah, interesting, okay. Yeah, I won't keep you guys too much longer. I'm just trying to get to the end of chat here. And then I'll probably call it a night. It's pretty late. I might write a little on a video I'm working on, but I'm not too sure yet. Tomer says, Neil, I don't think has done too much compared to Engin, but Engin has dealt with things very badly and unprofessional in some cases. Igor, I heard, designed the modern table, so I think Igor. That's fair. Boss Royale says, are the French fries really that good in Belgium as people make them out to be? Yes. You don't understand, Boss Royale. French fries in Belgium are a religion. Even the fact that I'm calling them French fries hurts me a little bit. We just call them fries because, yeah, they're ours. You'll see, we call it a friture. It's basically like kind of a snack bar kind of thing that sells fries and other deep fried snacks. We have them in, yeah, nearly on every street corner as a figure of speech. I think in my, the place where I live alone, which isn't a big place, I'd have to think, but I think there's like 10 or 12 or something just in this small village where I live, basically. So yeah, they're a religion. Fries are a religion to us, as are beer and chocolates to a degree. Waffles are way overblown in my opinion, but yeah. Gagan says, screw Engin, I'm sticking with Arm Historian stream. You can do both. I'll be quitting soon this stream, so yeah. You can go down to Engin's stream, send him, tell him the Arm Historian sent you. It'll get me back into his good graces after the video I made on him. Although I think I was very laudatory, but yeah, it is what it is. Okay, says Larry Wheels really gave the sport exposure. True, Larry Wheels was important for sure. Vasily says probably Dennis has acromegaly. Yeah, megalia, or however you pronounce it. Might be the case. Kind of looks like it from some angles. True, I didn't realize arm wrestling was popping on YouTube until Larry Wheels says Atlantis. Yeah, that's the thing with growth, right? Of these kinds of things, especially with like the online landscape. It happens in bursts. I even see it's reflected in views of content a lot too. And I see this not only with my own content, but also with other people's content. Views are a bunch lower right now than they were before. Yeah. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. I'm sure there'll be an upswing sometime soon, hopefully. Friendly Face says, my grandfather could crush walnuts with his fingers. I'm pretty sure there's a trick to it. He was a bricklayer, however. Yeah, I'm sure it requires some amount of strength. But yeah, it kind of seems like one of those bar tricks, right, to a degree. Boss Royale says, are you interested in football or any other sport? To a degree. Not really in football. I know my countrymen go crazy for that sport, as does Europe and a lot of the other parts of the world. Personally, not that into football, aka soccer. Yeah, not really my thing. Of course, having lived here, it's kind of inevitable. But yeah, I've played it many times with friends and stuff. But yeah, was more into basketball growing up. I think my body type lent itself better to basketball. So I usually played basketball growing up. I'm thinking of other sports that I was into personally. Not a lot. Not a lot, actually. Yeah, there you go. It's just arm wrestling seemed like I was always strong and pretty big and stuff. And arm wrestling had this aspect to it which kind of made it seem like a thinking man's sport to a degree. which was really appealing to me. Kind of the reason I got into arm wrestling. Kind of seemed like a chess match, especially at the start when I first got into it. It still does sometimes. If you're close enough in strength, it still does. Devin is the main reason why people know the sport of arm wrestling. There's Boss Royale. Yep, you can definitely make that argument. Belgian fries from today, says Chuck. Yeah, they definitely should be called that. Boss Royale says, I want to try some Belgian fries now. Yeah, you should. People, it's interesting because people here have like, they have their snack bar, their friture, as we call it, just like people would have their regular bars in the US or whatever. Yeah, basically people would find the friture that tastes the best for them, that has the best fries, and then stick with it for basically the rest of their life, if they can. Is that your arm? Says Gagan. Yes, it is indeed my own arm in the image, although it is by now a year and a half old or something like that, or a year old, so yeah, I should take new images because my arm looks a little more developed, I think, now. Tomer says you should try our chips. Thick fries in England, where we serve them soggy with fish. It sounds bad, but it's a staple of English cuisine, yes. I'm well aware of fish and chips, Tomer. Some places have started to make it here too. But thanks for the suggestion. You can always give me food suggestions and I'll be interested, no matter what it is. Chuck says, did Engin got angry with you about video really? I'm not going into it because I talked with Engin one-on-one, right? So yeah, I hope you understand. I'm not going into like details here. All I'm gonna say is I try to be unbiased. I thought I did a good job of showing Engin's accomplishments in the sport and how much he won. I think I did a good job showing that. That's kind of what I was going for. But Engin might see that a different way. I don't know. That's all I will say on that. Lat Rousseau says, did Engin not like your video? I thought it was good. Thank you, Lat Rousseau. Engin is, of course, entitled to his own opinion. It is, after all, his own life. And it can be easy to see like your entire career condensed into a 30-minute video, right? So, yeah, I understand. Left arm reveal when, says Gagan. Good question. I have been thinking about toying around with how I present myself on stream. So yeah, you might see a difference in one of the upcoming streams, who knows. Do you think Alizan could one day move the mountain Levon on the left? Maybe. You guys ever had Philly cheesesteak? I have not. Vasily says Devin has a very good durable body too. He has long arm and fingers with very durable body of his own. Devin is already 50 years old and growing hair faster than anyone in my life. True. Interesting, Tomer. Okay. Boss Royale says opinions on leg wrestling. Boss Royale, is that like the mass wrestling that I've seen? Where there's like a wooden board or something? Where you like put your legs on, you sit down or you lay down and then you try to pull each other over? Is that leg wrestling? I'm not quite sure. Lat Rousseau says arm wrestling is a thinking man sport. Makes sense why there's so many geniuses in the comments. Yeah, Okay, just to be clear, I never made any qualitative statements about an arm wrestler's average intellect, okay? All I said is, it looked to me, and I was very clear, like a thinking man sport. In the sense that one move counters the other, and then there's another move that counters that move, and so on and so on. Boss Royale says, how did you find out about arm wrestling? I always arm wrestle to a certain degree in school and like bars and stuff. I would say there's a pretty big arm wrestling culture in bars here. although it has kind of fallen off in the last few years, I think. But like competitive arm wrestling, I think I was made tangentially aware by WAL around that time. Yeah. But then I didn't really get into it until... Like, I didn't start practicing it myself until... Hard to say. I think like the Juji collapse with Devon. I think that's when I started to like actually train for arm wrestling. Tomer, I'm still growing, but I'm on a smaller side than before working out. I was skinny and weak naturally, but I like arm wrestling because of the technique and outthinking my opponent to gain a physical advantage. That makes sense. I think a lot of people can find a lot of reasons to get into arm wrestling. It's a very accessible sport, I think. Here in the UK, the food is awful, says Boss Royale. We have some awful dishes too, don't worry, Boss Royale. But that is kind of the stereotype, right, about the UK. I don't want to like talk out of pocket here, but that's kind of what I hear sometimes. But to be completely fair, we have a lot of awful dishes too. Atlantis says, damn, you didn't like the video. I won't say anything, Atlantis. I think people can read between the lines if they want, or they can contact me personally if they really want to know. But yeah, something that was said one-on-one between Engin and myself, I'm not gonna like, reveal or something. I don't think that's morally correct. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate you liking the video. Maybe it'll get more views sometime soon, I don't know. One can only hope, right? Engin meltdowns are amusing, says Boss Royale. Okay, says arm wrestling is unique because you can improve even at older ages. For many sports, you start to decline by your mid-30s. True. Also very true, and one of the many reasons arm wrestling is so appealing. Gagan says age reveal when... I'm not a young guy. Of course, to some people's standards, I'm sure I am a young guy. But yeah, I'm not like fresh out of college or anything. Those days are behind me already, I'm afraid. Boss Royale says, no, leg wrestling is when two people lay on the ground and try to push each other's leg down. You can see it on YouTube. Interesting, haven't heard of that. I'll check it out, Boss Royale. Pakistani food is way better than Indian food. Butter chicken, tikka, kebab, nihari, etc. Says okay. I love me some Indian food. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of Pakistani food available to us here. Okay, but yeah, by how you describe it, sounds good. I believe you. I love me some Indian food though. I can't lie. Boss Royale says, wow, I never... You, Igor, designed the modern arm wrestling table. That's incredible. Yeah, to a degree, right? It's not like Igor just invented the concept of an arm wrestling table with like pads and pegs and stuff, but like the dimensions of the table as they are most commonly used now are indeed by Igor's design together with another fella, I believe. I go into a little more detail on that in one of my videos on Igor. So if you want to learn a little more, you can watch it there. But yeah, Igor, an interesting fella. I don't know how much of his accomplishments are overblown to a degree, because Igor also apparently has a PhD in arm wrestling, which, believe you me, I've looked for that paper. I have access to a lot of academic papers if I want to. I've looked for that paper. I can't find it for the life of me. I want to desperately read it, but yeah, I can't find it. So if anyone has access to that paper that Igor Mazurenko got his PhD on, let me know. Because I definitely want to see what kind of PhD level research Igor did on arm wrestling and why it doesn't seem to be publicized anywhere. Not that I can find. I might have just not found it, right? Okay. Vasily, yeah. You can get involved to the degree that is comfortable to you physically, right? So, breakfast, lunch, and dinner all in one, being fish fingers or beans on toast. Yeah, a full English breakfast. looks and sounds really good. I love beans, man. What can I say? Beans in tomato sauce are, yeah, really good. Anyone you want to pull some days, it's Friendly Face. Yeah, there's a ton of people I want to pull. I've had the good fortune of having pulled some of the elite guys, a couple of them. To a degree, I mean, with pulling, I mean just locking hands on the practice table, right? And playing around a little bit. So yeah, I've had the very good fortune of being able to do that. But there's definitely a lot of guys that I want to pull, of course. As far as like people that I actually want to pull competitively, yeah, other arm wrestling content creators. I've said this so many times before. If there's ever an arm wrestling content creator league, I'm there. I don't care if I have to put on my human face. I'll be there. A lot of people might be very frightened by my appearance, but I'll be there anyways. I'd love to pull like Pradeep or Eastside Arm Wrestling or Martino, Donny, for people who know him. There's a lot of people I'd love to pull, and I think I do pretty well against. And most of the famous Indian dishes are just stolen from Pakistan, like butter chicken. Even then, we do them better, says Gagan. Awesome. I'll have to try some Pakistani dishes, Gagan. I'll have to look for a place that's good nearby. Boss Royale, yeah, I didn't think it was very serious, but I'll look into it anyways. Just contact Igor, he might give you the papers. I have Boss Royale and I've not yet received them. I wonder why it's not just publicly available. Usually that doesn't bode well for papers and their efficacy, but yeah, what do I know, right? I've written papers before, just never on arm wrestling. Lat Rousseau says, wait, Igor's PhD in arm wrestling is real? I thought it was a meme. Your guess is as good as mine, Lat Rousseau, because despite me seeing it being repeated all over the internet, I haven't seen any evidence for it. I'm not saying it isn't real, it's just... yeah, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. It's like... you constantly see the thing about, like, arm wrestling was practiced by ancient Egyptians. And even the Romans practiced arm wrestling to select soldiers for in their armies. No. Like, how do you know that? Please show me any source for that, because I've looked for hours and hours and hours. And if it's so widely available and so well known, then you would expect for me to find one source even going back that far, but I can't find it. I cannot find it. Hey Tomer, thank you for dropping by. Good to see you. I hope you have a good night. Silverback says, oh man, I missed the Imane talk. Yeah, you can go back and look at it. Like I said, I'm not a political person in general. I think we should look at issues, quote-unquote, just as they are. And arguments should stand on their own legs without any, like biased political agendas backing them up. So yeah, I'm not the right person to talk about politics, especially on a public YouTube channel. If you ever want to talk politics with me in private, you can try. Maybe if I'm in the correct mood, I will, but usually I don't much care for it. So yeah, that's kind of, if you look at the conversation in that context, maybe you'll get something out of it. I don't know. You can always go back and look at it. I'll keep the live stream online. Order a silicone arm replica with holes for your eyes. I might. Would you pull Concrete Elbow? Yes. Without hesitation, Lat Rousseau. I don't know how he looks like, but... okay, I'll say this, and this might be a very hot take, but I think I can beat the large majority of like non-competing arm wrestling content creators. You know what I mean? And with non-competing, I mean like not competing at a high level. Like I think I could beat someone like the arm wrestling Whisperer, even though he competes at a pretty high level, just because I'm in a way different weight class. You know what I mean? But I think I could beat Pradeep, Eastside Arm Wrestling. Don't know about Pep or Concrete Elbow. Don't know how they look like, but I think I'd have a pretty good chance regardless. Just because weight classes are a thing, you know. I don't want to see you any other way in that competition, says Chuck. I'll keep it in mind. The more ghetto the Pakistani restaurant, the better the food, says Gagan. Yeah, I definitely hear you on that. A lot of those hole in the wall places are a lot of the time really good. Will Vitali and Devon ever pull one day? One can hope, Boss Royale. I hope so. I bet a few promoters would gladly make that content creator arm war happen. I doubt you will ever get Pradeep though. Get him as in beat him? Because I think I could beat Pradeep very easily. My opinion. But I'm willing to back it up. You can call it a call out. La Trousseau says Brutus pulled Caesar's whole body. Yeah, did he? Might have pulled something of Caesar's. Or Kaiser's. Or however you want to pronounce it. Gagan says, I found a diploma on Igor's page, but I don't know the language. So I can't read it, so I don't know what it says. Yeah, even if you find... like, finding a diploma doesn't really say anything, right? I just want to see his research that he did for his PhD. I just want to see his paper. Like, show me your PhD paper. He doesn't have to, of course. He's under no obligation to send it to me or anyone for that matter. But that's just what I would want. For selfish reasons. I just want to read arm wrestling, actual academic arm wrestling literature. That's just what I want. Get him, as in get him to participate. Yeah, unfortunate. I'd love to get him to participate, but maybe you're right and he wouldn't. I don't know. Vasily says, I think the only way to defeat Levon is to stop him under the table. Slip underneath his big hand and flop press him like Hermes did. Might be the only way, yes, you might be right. It's like the only way we've really seen something happen right in that regard. I'll end this poll. I started it 5 hours ago. 56% of you think Jerry Caderet will win over Alex Kurdecha, so yeah, really close call there. Guys, I think I'm going to be ending it here. I think I've finally gotten to the bottom of chat. Finally. I do appreciate everyone joining me in the conversation today. I hope I didn't alienate too many people with my talk at the start of the stream. As always, I try to just remain neutral and try to find some truth somewhere. I appreciate everyone for having been very civil in my chat. Yeah, I think that's awesome of you guys, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. I was kind of dreading maybe that it wouldn't be quite as civil, but yeah, clearly I underestimated my own community, which I should never do. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone that's in here, all the members, all the non-members. I appreciate you greatly. Hope you have another good week ahead of you, and I'll probably see you next Sunday. I hope I'll be releasing a pretty long video sometime soon, but no promises on next week. But yeah, I'll be there Sunday to talk about East versus West. I hope you have a good time watching East versus West, and yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, stay strong most of all, and until next time, guys, hope to see you then, same time, same place. Bye bye, guys. Arm Historian out of here.